Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of LA Rams Central. I'm Anthony.
And I'm Eric.
And we're back. I know you guys may have missed us, may not have missed us, but we're back either way. So here we are. We are at the Super Bowl week. We have the Philadelphia Eagles with Doug Peterson. And who's their offensive coordinator?
You got me.
That's bad. We don't know the Philadelphia Eagles offensive coordinator. Well, what we do know...
Frank Reich. Oh, it's Frank Reich.
Oh, that's right. Frank Reich. Okay. Captain Comeback.
That's right.
So it's them versus... I'm doing it, Eric.
Yeah, I'm sure you are.
I'm going there. The New England Cheatriots, led by Bill Belichick and Josh McScandals. A nickname I think well earned among the organization. As I said before, people didn't videotape prior to New England because somebody would have been caught in the 80-plus years that supposedly had been a well-known practice going on. Yet somehow, the Patriots were just so bad at that particular version of cheating that they got caught. So, but everyone did it.
Do you hear that thumping sound?
No.
That's the dead horse keep beating.
Oh, I'm going to beat it, even though it's dead. Because you know something? It's relevant. So, on behalf of the Rams of 2001, your fellow Philadelphia Eagles from 2003, and the Carolina Panthers of 2004, win this game. You were one of the three teams that New England videotaped, so win, please. Anywho, the championship games. A lot of hoopla surrounding New England, but I just think it's Patriot fatigue. The Eagles game, there's really not a lot to talk about. Minnesota forgot to take the flight home from Minnesota to Philadelphia. I don't know what team took the field that were donning the purple and white, but it didn't look anything like the Vikings all year long.
I'll tell you exactly what happened if you want to hear.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Pat Shurmur had one foot out the door.
Ooh, you went there. Ooh, you went
Sure
there.
did.
You went there. Look, I mean, okay, well, Josh McScandals and, the guy that everyone thinks is a great D coordinator, but he's really just a guy that makes the call that Bill Belichick tells him to throw in there, Matt Patricia, have jobs too lined up, right?
They both do, yeah. So Indianapolis and Detroit have both waited out the Patriots. So we'll have the official announcement Monday when it was basically official like 5 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be funny though to watch Matt Patricia in Detroit and the Lions, stumbling and fumbling their way to losing records because this guy, and I may be wrong, but it just kind of feels like Belichick's been calling the defense and he just kind of signals it in. Like, I don't think the Patriots are utilizing Matt Patricia's defensive playbook. I think he's executing Bill Belichick's playbook in the plays Bill Belichick tells him to throw in there. That's just.
But players swear that he's a great coach to play for.
Oh, I'm sure they do. Oh. Probably because they're paid to shut their mouths and do the right thing, and that's what you should say. Now, I'm not saying they don't have a relationship with their D coordinator. I just, as a player, when the guy that's coaching you up is coaching you up, or the other guy's coaching him up to coach you up. So we'll wait and see how that works out in Detroit. Josh McScandals, I think, is a little bit more of an interesting prospect for the Colts in the sense that I do think having coaching experience once before, I'm all for giving guys second chances when they've gone back to coordinating. We saw what happened with Bill Belichick. We saw what happened with pardon me, I'm spacing it. There's been a few coaches in history that's happened to that then turn around and had success. So, we'll wait and see if Josh McDaniels learned from his time as a head coach and an OC again. But
well, it'll be interesting because he goes from being under Robert Kraft to being under Jim Irsay. There's a big difference there, especially when you have a quarterback coming off an injury to his throwing shoulder, where he didn't even play a snap this season.
Why do you think it's a big jump? What's the difference between the two owners?
There's stability with Kraft. There isn't that great a stability with Irsay. Irsay had Ballard last year, hired Chris Ballard as his GM, would not let him fire Pagano and bring in his own guy, gave Pagano one more chance, and of course, luck doesn't play. He goes 3-13. And, Pagano was on the plank all year. I mean, not his fault, don't get me wrong. I mean, when you're playing with, backup quarterback all year and you start the year with Scott Tolzien, it's not going to go right. So the writing was already on the wall the previous year. You should have just let him go. Okay? I don't foresee McDaniels being there long term. So I'm curious as to if McDaniels is only there 3-4 years, where does he go back? Does he go back to New England? I mean, it's a rhetorical question, but something to really think of. Would he go back to New England? Would he go somewhere else? Would he go to college? Because I think that he needs Belichick more than Belichick needs him. And I think that McDaniels is in for a rude awakening in Indianapolis.
I disagree, as much as I hate to disagree. I don't think Bill Belichick needs anybody. Okay? That goes without saying. But I do think you can learn a lot, and I'm approaching this just straight from a coach's standpoint. I think you can. I remember when I had my first coordinating job at Desert Ridge, my first time ever being a coordinator. Made some really dumb mistakes. I had a coach that gave me a lot of leeway. Never really questioned my play calling. And then I left that school and I bounced around a few other schools doing other positions. And then I got my job at Chandler Prep as an offensive coordinator for 5 years. And, that first year, all those mistakes that I had learned, I was able to put forth on the field. The only game I lost as a coach, as a coordinator that year, was against, at the time, the number 8 team in the state, which I think was Superior. Superior? Sounds right. Superior High School. And we were down 21 points in the fourth quarter. And we came back, and with 2 seconds left, our tight end dropped a pass in the back of the end zone. He was wide open. Great comeback, fell short. We lost that game 41-38 or something like that, 42-38. That's why we didn't kick a field goal. The other game that they lost was when I was at your wedding. And that's when they were playing Pima, the number 1 team in the state. So that wasn't their fault. Or no, they were playing some Valley school that was like number 1 in the state at the time. And that, I'm not sure I would have had any more success than they did. But my system still scored 21 points, and that was the most that defense had given up all year long. So there was a lot of lessons that were learned is what I'm getting at. And then, the difference between my situation and Josh McDaniels is that Josh McDaniels is the head coach now, and he gets to call the shots and make the adjustments. The more success my offense got, the more jealous the head coach became and started stripping responsibilities and powers and things that I was able to do away from me. And that just snowballed into a deteriorated relationship, unfortunately. McDaniels won't have that problem. And I think he's capable of having, a bounce back. And you talk about stability with Irsay, but I will remind you that Tony Dungy was there until he retired. Irsay reminds me a lot of Georgia Frontiere if you make the playoffs, you keep your job, regardless of how far you go. Reminds me of the Brown family in the same regard. I mean, Marvin Lewis could have stayed there as long as he wanted, as long as he kept making the postseason. They didn't care if they won or lost it because they have an old school mentality of getting to the playoffs is the key. Once you're there, the dance can go any which way but Sunday. So let it play out. And, we didn't get it this year, but we'll get it next year mentality. So I do think Irsay is a little more stable than you're giving him credit. I mean, there's not a lot of people that would have stuck with Chuck Pagano as long as they did. So I that's where I disagree.
Well, we'll find out.
Yeah. But anyway, getting to the championship games. Minnesota didn't show up. It was unfortunate. I feel bad for the Viking fans because this is a franchise that ever since they beat the Rams in the 1976 conference championship game, which, by the way, after beating the Rams 24-13 in 1976, they were 4-0 in conference championship games. They never lost. Then in 77, they went to Dallas and they got pounced. I want to say it was 23-6 or 20. They got trounced nonetheless. They've never won a championship game since. They lost in 77. They lost in 87. They lost in 2000. They lost in 98. They lost in 2000, 2009. They lost again this year.
Maybe they shouldn't be playing in a dome.
Well, there's something to be said there, right?
Well, I mean, they haven't had success in getting to the Super Bowl since they've been outside.
Yeah.
Since they played at Metropolitan Stadium.
Yep. Miracle at the Met in its final day. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think about it. I guess that brings us then to the AFC Championship game. I guess for me here, the only issue that I really have, it's going to make it sound like I'm making excuses, so bear with me, Eric, because I know you're going to be the voice of reason on the other side. Bouyer's penalty at the end of the first half was one of the worst calls in a playoff game of that magnitude that I've seen in a long, long time. Now, not the worst I've ever seen, but the worst I've seen in quite a while. I remember saying at the time, God couldn't have caught that football. And you're going to tell me that's catchable? That's number one. Number two, it wasn't pass interference. He ran the guy out of bounds. That was a great defensive play. And people want to sit there and they want to go, well, that was in the first half and one play doesn't change the game. I really hate it when people say that. It's spoken like a true ignorant person that's never played the game. You don't think there's an emotional difference going into the locker room up 14-3 as opposed to being up 14-10?
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly why. At a college football semifinals, ask Oklahoma.
What about Oklahoma?
They scripted right before the half. It hit a Georgia player on the front line. They recovered it. A couple of plays, instead of down 10, they were down 7, and they came back and won.
Okay, you're talking college.
I'm talking college.
That's like comparing AAA baseball to the major leagues.
But still, it had the same effect.
It doesn't have the same effect because you have different athletes on the field. And as I'm telling you as a coach, you change your coaching game plan. Now, I'm not saying Jacksonville didn't do things to lose this game. The stupid delay game penalty, the punting the ball on the opposite side of the 2-minute warning. This goes back to something I said a long time ago, that Bill Belichick is great. And I'll tell you why he's great. He's great because he understands clock management and does clock management like every coach that ever coached in the 1980s did clock management. These a-holes today, they don't even know what clock management means, let alone execute it. And when you don't know how to execute in the final 2 minutes of a football game, you kill your football team as a coach. So I'm not going to sit here and say New England won because the Bouye penalty. Okay? I'm saying it changes the way the game goes. Does New England still win?
It ends up being a combination of things, and that was part of the combination.
Right, exactly. That's my point. And but what I do have an issue with is, and I bring that penalty up because of this point, only one team in NFL postseason history prior to Sunday, 2 weeks ago, had one penalty in a conference championship game where the other team had 9 or more. Do you know who that team was?
Yeah, the Patriots, 2011.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're talking, the championship game's been around since 1933. And in the last 5 years, it's only happened twice, and it's been by the same team. That's more than alarming. And then you've got this official celebrating a touchdown, congratulating Tom Brady. The optics look awful. And that just adds fuel to people's fire. Maybe it's Patriot fatigue. Maybe none of this matters. Maybe people are just looking for excuses. I'll tell you what I think, and I want your input on this. I think Jacksonville played better than they really are. I think they gave New England a hell of a run, but I don't think they have the skill on the offensive line or the defensive line to beat the Patriots. And when those positions matter the most are in the final 2 minutes of both halves. And in the final 2 minutes of both halves, the Jaguars didn't measure up. New England was a better team. I know that hurts, and there are Jaguar fans out there that are going to disagree, and you can make all the excuses in the book, and they're understandable. But in the end, it's the same reason I didn't think the Rams are going to go to the Super Bowl this year. I said they would make the playoffs. I was hoping they'd go a little bit further than they did. But the Rams have glaring weaknesses, as does Jacksonville. New England's weaknesses were not the Jaguars' strengths. The Jaguars don't have tackles that are pass rushing specialists that can put pressure up the A-gap. They don't have linebackers that can play the run as physical as they can play the pass. They do a really good job against the pass. They've got corners that are locked down. There's no question. But you can run at Bouye. You can throw short and make him miss. Jalen Ramsey is not a tackler. A sure tackler. He's a tackler. He's just not a sure tackler. And New England loves those short underneath games where they break tackles and make extra yardage. And the biggest glaring weakness is they didn't have anybody that can cover Gronk. Now, the concussion covered Gronk for the rest of the game, but they kind of lucked out there. But that's my 2 cents. What do you think, E?
Well, Jacksonville went up 14-0. Social media went crazy saying the Patriots were done. I just shook my head saying, you know what? I know I didn't pick Jacksonville. This is fun to watch, but there's 4 quarters to a football game, and you don't count out Brady in any situation. Jacksonville took the foot off the gas pedal after they were up 14-0. Jacksonville couldn't get any pressure on Brady because what did Bill Belichick do? He took away the edges and made Jacksonville try to beat him up the middle, and they couldn't get there. You know, that's Bill Belichick that's why he's one of the best coaches ever, because he can figure out a situation, take away the best player, and he's going to have to do that in the Super Bowl. Who's he going to take away on defense when the Eagles have the ball? Well, that's going to play big. How is he going to tame the Eagles' pass rush by their front four? Okay, that's going to be interesting to see what he does there. He's just a master crafter at figuring out how to exploit defenses, how to take away other teams' best players, and after Fournette ran for those 2 touchdowns, barely heard from him.
Yeah. Well,
and,
14.
Give Jacksonville all the credit in the world. Bortles was playing hurt. He actually ended up having wrist surgery this week, so he's had a wrist problem since December 2016, and to be playing that all the way through mid-January 2018. I don't know if that was stupid that he didn't get the surgery after the 16th season, or if they just didn't deem that it was needed. But for them to take him that far, and Bortles isn't the only reason why they went, obviously, as far as they did. The defense was there, and they played as well as they could, but it wasn't good enough against the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
They just needed to put the foot on the gas pedal, keep it straight down to the ground, and don't let off until the final whistle sounds.
Well,
but when you're playing against 11 on defense plus 6 refs, it's usually hard to win that way.
Yeah, there's always 2 teams you got to play against when you play New England.
Yep.
But 14-3, that to me is the most alarming number. They outscored Jacksonville in the second half, 14-3. It makes a big difference. Super Bowl 52. Eric, do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
I mean, we already know who you're picking, and we already know that I'm picking opposite of you, so it doesn't matter who goes first.
All right, well then I'll go first and eliminate all of the tension here. So, 2007, I made a $50 bet with a neighbor in my apartment complex. I think that was when I made the bet. It might have been 2011, but nonetheless, I don't live in an apartment anymore, clearly. But in 2007, I knew that the Giants were going to beat the Patriots. I knew that the Giants were going to beat the Patriots because the formula to beat New England has never changed since 2001. Because Tom Brady's a lot like Drew Bledsoe, and because New England doesn't like to run the football. Doesn't mean they won't run the football, they just don't like to run it. The way you beat New England, it's really very simple. You have to get pressure on the outside, forcing Tom Brady up into the pocket, followed by A-gap pressure. Now, A-gap is on either side of the center, and you go in. If you force him into the A-gap pressure, he throws off his back foot, he throws it quickly, he throws interceptions, he fumbles the football, he gets sacked, he gets frustrated, he loses his cool. And like any great quarterback, they get off their game and they get frustrated, and then it snowballs. But you also have to be able to cover in the secondary. And you have to be aware of the short passing game to try to get him protected, especially if you get to him early. Defensively, New England can't stop the run. They can't. They can stop the run when you kind of do it half-hearted. As you put, let off the gas pedal. They can stop the run if that's your only dimension. You better be able to throw the ball accurately between 5 to 10 yards to convert those 3rd and mediums, 3rd and 8s. Once you get to 3rd and 12, Belichick's got you beat. You better punt. You might as well punt on 3rd down because you're not getting the 1st down more often than not. So, I look at this Patriot team, and I'm basically telling you how to beat them. Okay. Well, what does Philadelphia do better than anybody in the league?
Get pressure on a quarterback.
With their 4-down linemen. And they interchange them like crazy. You've got Chris Long, who's perfected the strip sack. You've got Fletcher Cox that is just flat out unblockable. And it allows for their corners to play a little more aggressive. Now, I earned a lot of respect for the Eagles' corners in this championship game and the Raider game. Those are the 2 games for me where I'm like, ooh, we need to look at these guys a little more closely because this is a legitimate football team. I don't like the fact that I have Nick Foles as the quarterback. If this was Carson Wentz, there would be no reservation. But it's not. Who do the Eagles take away is key, or the Patriots take away. That's key. I think they're going to take Zach Ertz away. That's what I think. Nick Foles needs to get the ball to his wide receivers. Doug Peterson needs to run the football. With no Hightower and no real ability to stop the run, and as I've said all year long, the Patriots haven't played anybody all year long. You look at the NFC and what the Eagles have had to go through just since losing Carson Wentz, and what Tom Brady's had to go through, you have 2 good teams in the AFC. And Tom Brady played none of them in the postseason. Well, because he's on the other one. The Steelers and the Patriots. Jacksonville's really good defensively. But offensively, a lot of holes. There are not a lot of holes in the Philadelphia Eagles. They put up 38 on the very best defense the NFL has to offer in 2017. They are, I don't care about stats, they are so much better than Jacksonville. And they put 38 on them. I think we can agree that Minnesota has a better defense than New England. Now, who's a better coach? No question. Obviously, that's going to be Bill Belichick. And I do think they will take elements of that offense away. So, I've been saying it since it began, and I said when the postseason started, I'm going to take the field over New England in the NFC. Well, the field left me Philadelphia. Do I want to renege? Do I want to go back on that statement? Probably because I'm 6-4 in the postseason. My answer to that is no. I'm going to pick Philly to win this game, and I'm going to say they win it 28-17. I'm going to go with an 11-point victory. Call me crazy, but I think they're going to get some turnovers. I think they're going to pressure Brady. I think Brady will make a furious comeback in the fourth quarter. I think he'll score a couple touchdowns. I don't think it'll be 28-3. That would be hilarious. But I do think it'll be like, 14-3, 21-3. And I think Philadelphia will do what Atlanta couldn't do, and that's ice it when they have the opportunity in the fourth quarter. I'm going to pick Philly. Eric, the floor is yours.
I'm going to disagree with you on one point, and that is the Patriots taking away Zach Ertz. And I think Zach Ertz has a pretty decent game.
Wow.
Stephon Gilmore is playing some of the best football of his career heading into this game. He is most likely going to be on Alshon Jeffrey. Alshon Jeffrey will not have a great game. Zach Ertz and Nelson Aguilar, on the other hand, should have a good game. But I'm going to tell you a little X factor on how Philly can win. Because there is a player on Philadelphia's offense who was a little perturbed, ticked off, whatever other word you want to use, that he didn't get re-signed by New England last year. And he is on that Philadelphia rushing attack. And that's LeGarrette Blount.
Oh, yeah.
You said that New England can't stop the run. I could see Jay Ajayi and LeGarrette Blount running wild in this game. Okay? That right there is key for Philly to win, is to run the ball, control the clock. And I know what Foles has done. I understand what Foles has done the last 2 weeks, getting the Eagles to the Super Bowl. I didn't see it coming. Vegas didn't see it coming. Nobody outside of Philly really saw it coming. So as long as Foles plays the way he did last week against the Vikings and not the way he played against the Raiders or the Cowboys, the Eagles have a great chance of winning this game.
I sense a bump.
However,
there it is.
It's the New England Patriots and the other side of the ball. Can never count out the Patriots. I understand that Philly's got a great front four to get pressure on Brady. I get it. But Brady's also really good at seeing that pressure and manipulating that defense. Now, Philly's defense is a little bit different. Philly's defense is a little more opportunistic, and they're a little bit more aggressive when they need to be. But passes to Dion Lewis, Gillislee is most likely not going to play, but if Rex Burkhead can get going, that's going to take a lot of pressure off Brady. It's going to make that Eagles defense come in a little bit. Brady will hit him over the top. I expect Gronkowski to be cleared by Friday. If he's not cleared by Friday, then I don't think he plays.
Yeah.
I don't think so. He's been practicing. He just hasn't passed the concussion protocol as of Wednesday evening. So, like I said, by Friday, that's the key. If he's there, the Patriots have another weapon to attack that Philadelphia defense with. You can throw on Philly's corners. If Brady gets time, I expect 3 deep shots just to Brandon Cooks alone. And then, of course, does Philly have anybody on defense who can guard closely Danny Amendola? I think that they don't.
Really?
I think Amendola has a huge game. He continues what he did at the end of the Jacksonville game, the AFC Championship game. And I think you're going to see a lot closer game, 27-24 New England.
There you guys go. Differing opinions. We got a Patriot pick. We got an Eagle pick. Should be an interesting game to watch. I totally understand if y'all don't. Patriot fatigue is real, is it not, Eric?
Getting there, but like I said, it's got to end sometime. And, win or lose in the Super Bowl, they've got 2 coordinators that are gone in Matt Patricia and Josh McDaniels. So we'll see, where they turn, if they turn in-house, if they hire somebody from the outside. But, I expect Belichick to be back. There's really no other openings for head coaches. I don't see anybody just firing their head coach saying, hey, Bill, let's, see if you want to come out here. I don't see that happening. I don't see Brady retiring. I do expect the Patriots to draft a quarterback in the draft this year. But we'll get to that later on. It won't be till the 3rd, 4th round. But, then it'll be a couple of years for them to groom him, to take over for Brady. Because I don't expect Brady to be in the league, 4 to 5 years from now. 3 to 4, maybe 4 to 5. I think that's pushing it. If not sooner, just because they'll be there. ineffectiveness or injury or something, but he's not going to be around forever.
Well, I'll tell you right now, if Tom Brady wins the MVP, Patriot fatigue will be in full flex.
Oh, most likely, yeah, and we'll find out Saturday the MVP if it's Brady or if it's Gurley. I think it's really just between those two.
I do too, and without trying to sound like a homer, I think for me the reason it's Gurley is you saw what the Rams were like with Gurley having a down year last year. Then this year you saw what the Rams offense looked like with Gurley in full blown bloom. So, the Patriots.
I'm not gonna say it was all Gurley that turnaround, but I mean,
no,
definitely different coaching philosophy, different personnel on the field.
But there's no question the ability to run the ball this year was a big difference.
Oh, huge, absolutely huge.
Now look, somebody asked me, "Who's your favorite Ram?" One of my students, and I love Aaron Donald. I love Alec Ogletree. But for me, it's a tie. Now that TJ McDonald is gone, and he's been gone for 2 years, it's Todd Gurley and Jared Goff. I'm not going to pound the drum for Goff yet because, as I told you guys at the beginning of this year, I need to see this year happen one more time. Before I'm going to sit there and go, yeah, Jared Goff's not, he's great. But I like him. I like him because everyone counted him out, and he kind of gave everyone a big middle finger in 2017, including some of his own fans, and went, oh, you think I'm garbage? Here's what I got for you. And I like that kind of tenacity. Nothing phases the kid. It's ridiculous how much he reminds me of Joe Montana, and I don't know if it's the number or if it's just I never see this guy yell. I've seen him frustrated, but I've never seen him yell at a teammate. It's really kind of cool. So Goff and Gurley are probably G squared. That's what I'm gonna call him, G squared. And of course, I love Higbee. I've loved Higbee since he came out of college. And yes, I like Farrell Cooper. I know a lot of you guys have ridden him after the wild card game, but whatever. One bad game does not make a player terrible. What do you want to jump to next, D?
Let's talk about the big news that happened yesterday.
Okay.
Alex Smith reportedly traded to the Washington Redskins for Kendall Fuller is one of them. A couple other another guy and a couple of picks. Those are the two big names in the deal. And then Washington is going to sign Alex Smith to a 4-year, $111 million deal with $71 million guaranteed. Now, start the quarterback musical chairs because that means Kirk Cousins will not be back in Washington.
Nope.
Which the Redskins, I like to use one word, but it's a family show, so I'm not going to use it. But the Redskins really messed up with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
They could have had, I believe, a 3 or 4 year, $44 million deal if Cousins was willing to sign it. Washington was like, no, that's what Cousins came with. Instead, Washington ended up paying Cousins $44 million in 2 years, and it was all guaranteed. Washington did not play its cards right. They didn't respect Cousins. Last year was a big debacle during their negotiations because they're trying to throw him under the bus, and Cousins is having none of it. So he goes out there and deals what he has to. Listen, I think it's a huge step up for Alex Smith. I'm not saying they're going to be cream of the crop next year for the Redskins, but Alex Smith goes from throwing to Travis Kelce, which I think is still one of the best tight ends in the league, and Tyreek Hill and Chris Conley. Chris Conley, a couple other number 2 wide receivers on the Chiefs, to throwing to Jamison Crowder, Josh Doctson, and if healthy, Jordan Reed. I think you'd see big numbers out of Reed because Alex Smith loves to check down to his tight ends, and that could be huge for them if especially maybe if Washington drafts a tight end, pass-catching tight end. It's huge. Huge for Alex Smith. He's definitely the big winner out of all this, getting the amount of money that he did, even with 1 year left on his deal. Now, rumor has it that Cleveland was also interested, and they might have even topped their offer from what Washington gave them, but there's a lot of respect between Alex Smith and the front office, and they didn't want to trade him to Cleveland. I don't know what it is about Cleveland, but it seems like it might be an armpit. We've heard that with Garoppolo. The McCarron deal didn't go through. I don't know what it is. So, Cleveland is going to turn its attention to Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is going to have a handful or a little bit more of suitors, and just watch. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but the sleeper team for Kirk Cousins, and I hate to see it because of where it would land, but the sleeper team for Kirk Cousins because of the type of weapons that he has, and none of the QBs are under contract for next year, 2018, but watch out for the Vikings. They could be a huge player in the Kirk Cousins sweepstakes. Cleveland can offer the most. I expect the Bills to be in it. I expect the Jets to be in it. I expect the Broncos to be in it. And to an extent, the Cardinals, but they're a little bit up against the cap. So depending on who they cut, I know Palmer's retiring. What happened with Fitzgerald? I know he's probably not going to make a decision until the Cardinals make a decision. But it's going to start a whole huge bidding war, gang war, amongst teams trying to get the services of Kirk Cousins. If Cleveland ends up being that team, he's going to have Joe Thomas for 1 year. Thomas said he will not sign another contract with Cleveland. That would dissuade me from signing in Cleveland a little bit if I'm Kirk Cousins. Just for the fact that I'm not going to have one of the best offensive linemen to ever play the game protecting me. And that would kind of make me raise an eyebrow saying, if he did sign an extension, I'd be like, I'm all in. Because that team's only a few pieces away from being good, but they might also be another head coach away from being phenomenal. And there you have it. Because depending on where Kirk Cousins signs, let's say he signs at Cleveland, and he signs a 5-year deal. Does Cleveland take a quarterback? Well, then the best quarterback, the Giants have their pick. So they'll take Allen or Rosen or Darnold or whoever. And that could be a trickle-down effect as well. Expect a lot of movement like that to happen regards to Kirk Cousins. Then I won't be surprised if Kirk doesn't sign first open day of the new year on March 14th.
Well, this hits near and dear to my heart. I like the Redskins. They're my second favorite team. I'm not happy about this trade because it does mean Kirk Cousins is going. Now, I've been watching football a long time. I never have seen this before. Maybe it's because the media is so insane today. Maybe it's that to get a job on ESPN as an NFL analyst or on the NFL Network, you basically need to have no intelligence whatsoever. You either needed to play the game before or be a bleeding heart fan of an East Coast team. Not name the Redskins. Or maybe it's just the fact that the talent pool coming out of college to be a broadcaster has diminished to the level of that Martian character from Looney Tunes. Whatever the reason. I've never seen a quarterback as obviously talented as Kirk Cousins be disrespected by everyone including the team he plays for, as consistently as Kirk Cousins. You compare Kirk Cousins statistically to Dak Prescott, it's not even close. It's not even close. Dak Prescott looks like Trent Dilfer or Babe Laughlin-Berg. All right, look him up. He used to play for the Cowboys. All right? It's not even close. But Dak Prescott is the Lord reincarnate. Kirk Cousins is a scumbag. Okay. You compare Kirk Cousins' numbers with anybody in the NFC East, and outside of Carson Wentz, he's got the NFC on lockdown. Yet, no one acknowledges he's good. So off he goes. You're right, the Redskins mishandled this. Make no mistake about it, this trade happened because the Redskins have egg on their face. And they don't...
This trade also happened because an hour before the Chiefs-Titans game, they came out and said, we're going to trade Alex Smith this offseason. Oh, okay, well, your offseason started a lot sooner than you hoped.
Yeah.
I don't know why they did that, and I'm surprised it actually took place right before the Super Bowl, where the big announcement was made. I'm sure NFL officials were happy that, that was taken away from Super Bowl coverage, but I'll let you continue. Sorry about that.
Well, the Redskins have egg on their face. They botched that situation with Kirk Cousins so badly that they needed to get rid of him because he was a constant reminder of the fact that he played them like a fiddle. So where does he go? So let me just say this now so it's out there. Okay? Whatever team the kid Allen from Wyoming goes to is going to be my adopted fourth team. I can't wait to see this guy play. He is going to blow everyone out of this draft class out of the water. Whoever gets him will have a Super Bowl caliber quarterback on a consistent basis like an Aaron Rodgers. And I can't wait to watch it because he's the fourth most talked about quarterback in this draft. And I'll tell you why he's the best one. Forget arm strength, because that's a big deal. He's accurate. He could throw on the run. He knows how to improvise when the play breaks down. He's got leadership skills. He's been on a program that's lost and won. And he's grounded. He doesn't feel like he's bigger than the game. That's the problem with Josh Rosen.
I thought you were going to say his mom grounded him.
No. But that's the problem. That's the problem with Baker Mayfield, Rosen, and the kid from UCLA or USC. Darnold.
Well, actually, I'm not sure where you're hearing all this from. And obviously, we're in two different parts of the country. But Allen is being talked about largely as much as at least Rosen, more than Donald. And I'm not even hearing Baker Mayfield even in the top 10.
Well, what I'm saying is when you listen to people do their mock drafts, they got Allen going as the fourth quarterback, sometimes a third.
No, they got Allen going possibly number 1 or number 2.
Well, that's good. He should. That means they finally caught up with me. I'm glad to hear that. The two mock drafts I saw, he went to Cleveland with their second first-round pick, which was like the 11th pick in the draft, whatever number that is. And the other one that I saw, he went like in the top 15. But it was like the bottom half of the 15, like 11, 12, 13, 14, one around them. Which I was like, really? So I'm glad. I'm glad that the mock drafts are starting to change. And I think he did a lot for himself on at the Senior Bowl. So maybe that's where the change came. But maybe it happened during the week of practice. I don't know. But I like Allen. So, well, what does that mean? Why do I bring Allen up? Because the Browns have a really difficult decision. And the decision is, do they go after Cousins or do they go after Allen? Because they have two options. with Allen. They can get him with the first pick and then focus on the rest of the team, or they could play games with the first pick and hope Allen's still there when they pick again. For me, you get Allen at 1 and then you focus. If they get Cousins, they can trade the number 1 overall pick, get a crap ton of picks, including 2 1s, the one that they have and the one that they get from the other team, while giving up the number 1 overall, and possibly have 2 1s next year and start building. Now, you mentioned Thomas. If I'm Cousins, I go to Cleveland. And I'll tell you why I go to Cleveland. I know what you're thinking. Well, of course you're going to say Cleveland. You like the Browns. Yes, I do, but that's not why I'm saying Cleveland. All Kirk Cousins wants is to be respected and to have longevity. He wants to know in 6 years, it's the same uniform he's donning. You go to Cleveland, you could take less money, not less money than what's offered by another organization, but you don't have to break the bank with Cleveland, right? You could say, this is how much I want, and put a no trade clause in there, and I'll take this much less. And he can stay there. Now I can go talk to Thomas and be like, bro, you need to come back, because I'm going to get you the ring you always wanted. But I need you here. So I think you could talk Thomas into coming back. Especially if the Browns go 8-8, hell, even 7-9. I think Thomas might be like, oh, this thing's turning around quick. Yeah, sign me up. I genuinely believe that. Do I think he's going to go to Cleveland? I would love it, but no. I'm so pissed off that I have to say this. I am fairly confident, not because I'm hearing it, but because it makes the most sense. But I think Kirk Cousins goes to the Cardinals. That's a gut feeling. I don't like it. I don't know why. For me, it comes down to 3 things. He's wanted here. I think the weather's going to play a part in it. He could still stick it to the Redskins once every 3 years. He would play him next year, by the way. Because the Cardinals finished 3rd, and so did the Redskins. So they're guaranteed to play Washington. Don't think that's lost on him. I just think it makes the most sense, unfortunately. So I think he's going to go to Arizona. But I'd love to see him go to Cleveland. As far as Alex Smith goes, I've heard a lot of people say that Alex Smith is the same quarterback as Kirk Cousins. They're no different. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Kirk Cousins is one of the best deep ball throwers in football. For me, it goes Aaron Rodgers and then Kirk Cousins. I don't count Ben Roethlisberger because he doesn't have a good deep ball anymore. He lobs that thing up, and Antonio Brown makes him look like a genius. Or Antonio Brown makes him look stupid. Stupid good. But Antonio Brown's the reason the Steelers' deep game works the way it does. Aaron Rodgers is the best deep ball thrower the league's ever seen. Ever. But I got to say, right now, Kirk Cousins is the second best deep ball thrower in the game. And I know Arians isn't there anymore. And this is a whole new system that the Cardinals are bringing in. But with John Brown and some of the talent they have at wide receiver, they're still a deep throwing team. And I think the Redskins were stupid because they traded a guy that can throw the ball 80 yards on a whim, 60 yards on a whim, for a guy that's known as Captain Checkdown. I don't know how that's going to help Jay Gruden at all. I think it hurts him. To your other point, I don't know who Alex Smith is going to throw the ball to because it ain't going to be the people you mentioned. It may be Jordan Reed still. Obviously, I think there's an obligation to keep him because when healthy, he is one of the best tight ends in football. But I won't be surprised if the Redskins get a free agent wide receiver or 2 and really try to bolster that offensive side of the ball. Because they have no wide receivers right now. None. that are, I mean, they're like the Ram wide receivers 2 years ago. It's not even close. Them compared to the rest of the league. Like, the Browns have Coleman. Way better than anything on the Redskins. The Redskins have nobody. So, I don't like this trade at all. But I think the Redskins did it to get the egg off their face. And I think the Redskins are going to be a very bad football team in 2018.
Well, yeah, Alex Smith isn't going to fix the same problems that Alex Smith faced, or that Kirk Cousins faced.
Right.
Quarterback can only throw to whoever's there. Ask Mitch Trubisky. He's pretty much the founder of that this year because the Bears had nobody at wide receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, the wide receivers on Washington, this is with or without Terrell Pryor. He was a non-factor this year, so we'll see where he ends up going. But, Alex Smith he doesn't throw, he throws a nice deep ball, but he throws it probably twice a game.
Yeah.
Not as often to soften up the defense. So it's going to be more of what can the Redskins do around Smith to make the team better, which is obviously shore up the defense, keep guys healthy on offense, bolster the offensive line.
Well,
we'll see if Washington does that. If they don't,
I disagree with you on defense. I think their defense is one of the best in football when healthy. They just got to stay healthy. Right. Offensively is where all their problems are. They got an aging offensive line. They've got no depth there. They proved that this year. They've got no wide receivers. They've got no running back. They've got a Darren Sproles type in Thompson. But I don't think he's an every down, hand the kid the ball and throw. I mean, he's no Todd Gurley. He's a passing threat who can occasionally gash you with the run, and he's valuable, but he's not your running back answer, and neither is Perine. See, that's what I love about running back. You know whether you hit on a running back or not within the first 2 weeks of preseason. Like, it's just the it factor. They've got it or they don't. I remember Rashaan Salam coming out of college. I remember listening to Bear fans go, oh, Rashaan Salam's great. He's great. He's great. I remember watching his preseason games where he had like 80 yards rushing and 2 fumbles and no touchdowns the first game. And I think he had like 6 yards rushing, well under 100 both games. But it was the way he ran. I'm like, this dude isn't NFL. Not even Neil Anderson was better than this. And Neil Anderson was pretty good, but no to Rashaan Salam. And everyone was like, oh, no, you got to give the kid a chance. Running back, you don't. Plug the kid in with the ones in the preseason and see what he can do. You'll know.
Oh, Rashaan Salam?
Yeah.
I can do you one better. Curtis Enis.
Oh, God, Curtis Enis. It's a family show. I can't tell you what we used to call him out here, but let's just say it rhymed with Enos.
Because it was probably the same thing we call him here, too.
Yeah, it was Curtis Almy Enis, but not Enos. It rhymed with Enos. But he was bad. To me, what the biggest tragedy, I think, in NFL history, well, besides Bo Jackson, at the running back position may have ever been?
Barry Sanders retiring early?
No. More tragic than that. Kajana Carter's injury.
Oh, yeah.
Man, if he stayed healthy. If that kid had a shot, whoo, that kid was good. You remember Tashim Biakabatuka?
Biakabatuka, yeah. Absolutely. Who doesn't remember him?
Tashimbig Biakabatuka. Yeah, that guy he was okay. But, yeah, his name was ridiculous. So, yeah, I just think I think it was a bad move. I think the Redskins set themselves back here a bit. And I really want Cousins to do well. Just because I always like it when people stick it to the media and to the fan bases that give up on these guys so early like they're geniuses. Guys, I'll tell you, You want to know why I'm probably going to be able to say I told you so with Jared Goff, or why I'm going to be able to tell you I told you so with Kirk Cousins. It's the same reason why I knew Drew Brees was going to be a good quarterback, why I knew Eli Manning was going to be better than Peyton in big games, not career. Statistically, it's not even close, but big game, I'll take Eli over Peyton every single time. But the reason isn't because I'm a genius or I know more than anyone else. There are certain things you look for. Third down conversion, which has to do with accuracy. Not even necessarily mobility, but to be able to read the defense quickly and get it to the check down if necessary. And the third thing is it's the it factor everyone talks about. It's an attitude. It's okay, you made me punt this series, I'm going to stick it to you on the next one. Or you wait till I get talent. Brett Favre was another one I called. I remember I had a friend of mine that was a Falcon fan in high school. I remember not texting him, but calling him on the phone because we had those still connected to the wall phones back when I was in high school. I'm that old.
Landlines, maybe?
Yeah, landlines. Remember those things? So I called him, right, at like 9:30 at night on a weekday, which I know what you're thinking, oh, what a rebel you are. Shut up, okay? That's not the point. I could have gotten in trouble because my parents were like, school night, you got to go to bed, you play football, you wake up early, go to bed. So I snuck up and I called him. And his dad answered, and I'm like, I need to talk to David. How do you call him? So I'm not going to tell you what the whole thing was, but basically Dad wasn't happy, but he hands the kid the phone. Right? Tell David, I'm like, David, did you see what your Falcons did? And he's like, no. What did they do? I'm like, dude, it's all over the radio. The radio. I even watched ESPN back then. That's how bad this is. I'm like, it's all over the radio. He's like, what? I'm like, y'all just traded a Hall of Fame quarterback for nothing. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, Brett Favre. And he's like, who? I never let him live that down. Every time Brett Favre was throwing for touchdowns and breaking records, and he was sitting next to me, I'd look at him and go, who? He gets so mad at me. It's an it factor. Why did I like Brett Favre? Dude gets in a car accident, gets his intestines torn open, stitches him up, and plays that week. Who does that? Brett Favre. Like, it's a different animal, right? Sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's just knowing that you've been crapped on your whole life because your big brother is Peyton. Sometimes it's the chip on your shoulder because everyone wants you to fail because you're too good to be true for whatever reason. I'm thinking of Drew Brees in this case. There's always somebody better. If they play like that, Tom Brady. You going to take me in the 7th round or 6th round, whatever the hell round he was drafted in? Dude still plays like he's mad at the league about that. He's admitted he's still mad at the league for that. Dude didn't even really start at Michigan. It's the it factor. Russell Wilson, you can see it when it's there. Sometimes it takes time to develop. Granted. Eric, I'm sure you can give me a name. Drop me a name.
Deshaun Watson.
There you go. And that's something that flashed early. A lot like Russell Wilson, right? So
right.
It's not a matter of being a genius. It's a matter of just looking beyond the statistics. And not necessarily the stats they put up, because I think those matter, but beyond the height, weight, hand size. Are you kidding me? Jared Goff is going to be a bust in the NFL because his hands are too small. Dude, you can't even make those kinds of drugs in this country. I don't know what you're doing. Like, really hit. Eric, if you're an owner of a football team and I tell you we can't draft this quarterback because his hands are too small, how long am I working for you?
Probably about another 2 minutes.
Right? just enough time to pack my crap, right?
Take that box with you.
Wait, oh, wait, you need an extra set of hands for that? I mean, come on. Like, this is what we've got. This is what the combine is. So, I love Allen. Josh Allen is going to be a stud. Darnold, he's going to be a bust. I got a gut feeling he's going to be a bust. But I'm not going to do that to Aaron Donald. I'm talking about Aaron Donald. I'm not going to do that to Darnold because, it's like Manziel. I kind of figured Manziel wouldn't pan out, but you don't want to say that. And you know what? If Darnold, here's what I hope happens. So I just said Darnold's going to be a bust, right? Agreed, Eric?
Right.
Here's what I hope happens. I hope over the next 15 years, after every game, somebody writes on the comment, I thought Darnold was a bust. How do you like him now? I hope the kid blows up the league. I pray I'm wrong. But, go ahead.
I also think it's all about the team that drafts these guys, okay? Imagine in the combine in '98 had Ryan Leaf not blown off the Colts. He acted sincere. He wanted to play football. And imagine if the Colts drafted Ryan Leaf and Peyton Manning went to the Chargers. Imagine what the NFL would be like now. Would you have still hated Manning even though he's a Charger?
I hated Manning.
Would he have gotten the press that he got if he was in San Diego?
Oh, for
Where
sure.
Where would the Colts be if they had drafted Leaf?
Let me just say I've hated Peyton Manning since he was in college. I thought he was an overrated blowhard back then. And even in college, he threw his players under the bus. Make no mistake about it. The reason I don't like Peyton Manning is because he's a selfish pile of human crap. And he always was quick to point the finger when something went wrong, but never blamed himself. It's Jim Mora's fault. It's our idiot kicker, our offensive line. Yeah, it's our offensive line. Well, our play calling. Well, our defense. It's always somebody else's, and I don't like that. And I don't blame the Chargers one bit for not picking him. Because I promise you, that came across when they interviewed him. Now, I wouldn't have picked Ryan Leaf either. If it were me, I would have traded out of that spot and lived to fight another day because I didn't like either quarterback. And I would have been fine with Peyton Manning doing what Peyton Manning did somewhere else. Because as a GM, as a coach, me and him wouldn't mesh. We would have been like Jim Mora and him. And Jim Mora doesn't like Peyton Manning to this day. He says Peyton Manning is a selfish player who never put the team first. He formed cliques, and he stuck with those cliques. Now, Marshall Faulk will tell you a whole different story about him. Okay? So, and maybe Peyton matured, but, towards the end of his career, but I could tell you, in Indy, there was always a reason. The Patriots were holding our wide receivers. Okay, well, the Patriots hold everyone's wide receivers. You're supposed to be the greatest quarterback that ever lived. You know who beats defenses that hold his wide receivers? Aaron Rodgers. Just saying. Brett Favre. Other guys did it. And they didn't make excuses. So, there's so many. So I would have been surprised if the Chargers caught on to that and we're not taking this guy. But I do think the landscape of the NFL would have been different. And I do think, to a degree, you're right. It doesn't matter what team you go to, Eric. But let me just wrap my part of this up with this. That I do think Aaron Rodgers, trying to think of another example just off the top of my head. It's hard to pick one. as far as rookie quarterbacks. Let me just say this. Sorry, I stumbled there a little bit. I'm trying to put the words together. There is a level of you as a quarterback or as an athlete that applies here. You could look at Tom Brady. The Patriots aren't a 7-win football team. They're a 10-loss football team without Tom Brady. And I know what you're saying. Well, they went 11-5 the one year that was years ago, and that team was deep. This Patriot team would be a 10-loss team without Tom Brady, which is why if he wins the MVP, I'm not going to be pissed about it. I just think Gurley's more valuable to the Rams because the Rams are a 12-loss team without Todd Gurley being Todd Gurley. But Tom Brady's valuable, and he elevates that entire team. Those are once-in-a-generation guys. I get it. But, man, you can definitely win if you're a good player with not a lot around you. And then that just makes you that much better. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a perfect example of that. The Packers are garbage without him. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
So what I'm saying is, and this is where I'm wrapping it up, it does matter to a degree where you go, but also matters to a degree what and who you are. So that's my 2 cents. You want to add anything?
Not to that, no.
All right. Well, I'm done if you're done. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, really quick.
Okay.
Rams lost offensive coordinator Matt LaFleur. I know he didn't call plays, but big deal or not big deal?
No, I'd be more concerned if the Rams, and I can't believe I'm going to say this. I can't believe I'm going to say this. But you know what? To his credit, he is a better coach than he was a player. I would be more concerned about the Rams losing Chris Weinke than LaFleur. Because Weinke's worked with Jared Goff for 2 years now, and I'd like to see that relationship have a third year.
What if he's named offensive coordinator but doesn't call plays?
For the Rams?
Yes.
I think that'd be huge. Because I think that is a guy that could learn, and that would be a really good guy for McVay to groom so he can go somewhere else and be a part of his eventual coaching tree. Because every coach out there, like, that's the biggest slam on Belichick. His coaching tree is pathetic. But you look at a guy like Bill Walsh, Paul Brown, Bill Parcells, and their coaching tree is legendary. And that means a lot to a coach. I remember Marty Schottenheimer talking about his coaching tree going, hey, I don't have a bad coaching tree at all. And he mentioned some of the coaches that worked for him that went on to be successful, like Bill Cowher. It means a lot to a coach. And, you know, I think Weinke is a guy that you could groom and maybe turn into a pretty good coach. So I think that would be a great move. Is there talk that the Rams are going to do that?
There's no talk yet on who they're potentially looking at.
I would say that would be a big deal.
I won't. You probably won't hear anything until like next week, right. And I don't even know. We'll see how much news it makes. I mean, Minnesota's looking for an offensive coordinator. They're eyeing John DeFilippo from Philly. So I mean, it's an OC position. So yeah, it's gonna get pressed. It's just a matter of, you know, how long is it gonna take the Rams to fill that hole.
Do you know who I want the Rams to get?
I'm not saying it's a whole position.
You want to know who I want the Rams to get?
Who?
I'll see if you're smart enough to pick up on this. He coached Jim Everett in his best years, and he was a big part of Troy Aikman's success.
No clue who you're talking about.
Norv Turner.
Norv Turner is the OC in Carolina.
No, they need to go after him.
Norv Turner is now the OC in Carolina.
No, they need to go after him. They need to be like, Norv, we'll offer you more money. Come back home.
Yeah. You can sign there.
I don't care. Get him anyway. It's Carolina. They just lost their coach. They suck.
Yeah, Gurley for McCaffrey. You got a deal.
No, I tell you what. What we'll do is we'll give you Robert Quinn for McCaffrey and Norv Turner.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, there we go.
Last thing I want to bring up is Thursday Night Football moving to Fox. One more Joe Buck game. Can you take it?
Well, I don't watch Thursday night anyway, so that's fine with me. And at least on Thanksgiving night, they're going to have to decide where to put him. Is he going to do the Thursday afternoon game in Detroit, because it'll be in Detroit this year, or is he going to do the Sunday night game, the Thursday night game?
Yeah.
So, hey, really quick, Justin Davis and Dunbar, two of the Rams running backs, if they return next year, watch out. I think they're going to have good years for guys that don't get a lot of playing time. I think they'll be key elements to keeping Gurley fresh and helping that offense click. I think they're going to have big years. I'm looking forward to it. The next show that we're going to do, guys, just so you know, and Eric, I'm letting you know this ahead of time, there's really no point in doing, after next week, doing a show for a while. We'll do a post-Super Bowl show, and then I'm honestly probably going to shut this thing down until free agency. So we'll do a free agency show recapping the first week of free agency, and then probably do a weekly show after that and just kind of talking about some things. But I'm going to take some time off and spend it on work and fam. But we'll do one more show next week, and then LA Rams Central will go away for just a little bit, and then we'll be back. You cool with that?
Cool with that.
All right. Well, we went all over. This is almost as long as the State of the Union address. It's an hour and 18 minutes. So I'm Anthony.
And I'm Eric.
And we want to thank all of you subscribers, all of the comments. We love you. We can't wait for more comments. Feel free to talk about maybe what you would like us to discuss after the Super Bowl. Maybe there's an issue that you want us to touch on that you heard. I'm going to open it up to the fans. So you guys get to pick the next segment, the next show. We'll cover the Super Bowl. We'll do our recap. And then any 3 stories, the top 3 vote getters. So if somebody's like, talk about this, and then it gets like the most likes, that's the one we're going to go with. So pay attention to what other people want to talk about. Make sure you're not saying the same thing. Just like theirs if they said it before you. And you guys will run the next show. So sound like fun, Eric?
Sounds great.
Awesome. We love you guys. We can't wait to see you. We'll talk to you again. Have a great one. And go Rams!